Ferrari's 2025 Formula One campaign has quickly descended into crisis after a disastrous Australian Grand Prix that left both Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc fighting just to score points. With the Chinese Grand Prix just days away, what began as a season of immense promise with the signing of seven-time world champion Hamilton has rapidly transformed into a nightmare scenario, with the SF-25 showing fundamental flaws that have shocked the paddock. While rival McLaren celebrates a dominant win with Lando Norris, Ferrari finds itself facing tough questions. Is the SF-25 fundamentally flawed, and can they salvage their season before it's too late? The pressure is mounting in Maranello, and time is already running out. The Ferrari SF-25 was designed to be a championship contender, the car that would finally bring the Scuderia back to glory after nearly 2 decades without a driver's title. After a competitive 2024 season where Ferrari finished as runners-up in the Constructors' Championship, expectations were sky high. The team spoke confidently about greater downforce, improved tire management, and a platform that would allow continuous development throughout the season. But the reality on track has been shockingly different. The most radical change to the SF-25 is its adoption of a pull rod front suspension, a decision Ferrari justified as necessary to improve aerodynamic efficiency. This configuration, used successfully by teams like Red Bull in the past, was meant to create a more stable platform and improve performance in fast corners. Instead, it left both Hamilton and Leclerc struggling to find confidence in the car. The car was really hard to drive today, Hamilton admitted after finishing 10th in Australia. I'm just grateful I kept it out of the wall because that's really where it wanted to go most of the time. Another critical issue plaguing the SF-25 is its extreme sensitivity to tire temperatures. From the very first practice sessions in Melbourne, Ferrari engineers battled to find the optimal operating window for the Pirelli compounds. The car shows promising pace in some sessions only to inexplicably lose performance in others, a frustrating inconsistency that makes race strategy nearly impossible to execute properly. When rain arrived in the closing stages of the Australian Grand Prix, the team's tire strategy gamble failed spectacularly, dropping both drivers out of points contention before a late recovery to 9th and 10th. Perhaps most concerning is the SF-25's erratic aerodynamic behavior. During race conditions, the car displays unpredictable performance, losing downforce in high-speed corners while struggling with traction in slower sections. This inconsistency makes it almost impossible for drivers to build confidence and push the limits, leaving them constantly managing issues rather than attacking. At the moment, we are working hard to try to improve the balance, Leclerc explained after qualifying. We struggled a bit in the last 2 days. The problems have created visible tension within the team. Hamilton's radio exchanges with his new race engineer in Australia revealed clear frustration, with the 7-time champion at one point snapping, "Leave me to it, please," after receiving unwanted instructions. Team principal Fred Vasseur has acknowledged the communication issues, saying, "We have to get to know each other. It was the first race, the first time that we had to communicate between the pit wall and the car. We can do a better job by knowing each other a bit more." With the Chinese Grand Prix approaching, Ferrari engineers are working frantically to identify solutions. The team is focusing on optimizing the SF-25 setup, with special attention to suspension geometry and weight distribution to improve the car's front-end stability. They're also reviewing aerodynamic configurations and tire management strategies, hoping to find a combination that will deliver more consistent performance across different track conditions. The big question remains, are these issues specific to the Melbourne circuit, or do they represent fundamental flaws in the SF-25's design? If Ferrari can make significant progress in China with relatively minor adjustments, it could indicate the car has untapped potential. But if the problems persist despite these changes, the team may face a technical crisis requiring more extensive redesign, a nightmare scenario given how quickly the season progresses. For Lewis Hamilton, who left Mercedes seeking a fresh challenge and the chance to win a record-breaking 8th world championship with Ferrari, the current situation must be particularly frustrating. Rather than fighting for podiums, he finds himself struggling to extract basic performance from a car that seems fundamentally flawed in its behavior. Ferrari's 2025 campaign has started with a major setback that nobody saw coming, as evidence mounts that a critical gearbox issue is forcing the team to compromise their car's performance. The Maranello squad left Melbourne with far fewer points than expected, but it's what Charles Leclerc revealed in his post-qualifying interview that has opened a fascinating investigation into Ferrari's true problems. Has the much-hyped SF-25 been fundamentally compromised from the start? And more importantly, can Ferrari fix this issue before their championship hopes fade away? The evidence has been hiding in plain sight since preseason testing. During the final day in Bahrain, Lewis Hamilton's running was cut short due to gearbox troubles, a sign of things to come that few paid attention to at the time. Fast forward to Melbourne, and customer team Haas saw Oliver Bearman unable to participate in qualifying due to gearbox issues, while Hamilton himself reported gear synchronization problems over team radio during the race. But the smoking gun came directly from Leclerc, who admitted the team had to raise the ride height of both SF-25s between Friday practice and Saturday qualifying. This is a crucial detail. Teams would never voluntarily sacrifice performance by raising ride height unless absolutely necessary, and the telemetry data confirms just how much performance they lost as a result. If you look at Leclerc's data from FP2 compared to his final Q3 lap, the performance drop is shocking, an F1 analyst commented. He was significantly slower in the final 4 corners of the circuit despite running with less fuel in qualifying. In turn 11 alone, he lost 8 km per hour and almost 1 G of cornering force. That's an enormous amount of performance sacrificed. The picture emerging suggests that Ferrari's gearbox is experiencing excessive stress when the car runs at the optimal ride height. When the SF-25 gets too close to the ground, exactly where you want it for maximum downforce, it appears the gearbox is being damaged by impacts with the track surface. This forced Ferrari into the compromise of raising both cars for qualifying and the race, explaining their mysterious loss of pace after looking so competitive on Friday. This creates a devastating dilemma for the Italian team. The SF-25 appears to have genuine pace when run at its intended ride height, but doing so risks catastrophic gearbox failures. Yet by raising the ride height to protect the gearbox, they're sacrificing the downforce needed to challenge McLaren at the front. The big question now is whether Ferrari can solve this problem without completely redesigning their gearbox, which would effectively end their championship hopes before they've even begun. Designing and manufacturing a new gearbox would take months, eating into their limited resources under the budget caps. More likely, Ferrari will need to explore alternative solutions. They could modify suspension settings to soften the ride over bumps and curbs, potentially allowing them to run the car lower without transmitting as much shock to the gearbox. However, this approach brings its own compromises to mechanical grip and handling balance. China and Japan will provide critical data points to confirm this theory. If we see Ferrari look quick on Fridays before mysteriously losing pace for qualifying again at both venues, it will confirm the team is facing a fundamental design issue rather than a Melbourne-specific anomaly. For Ferrari and their millions of passionate fans, the situation is intensely frustrating. The SF-25 appears to have the raw pace to fight at the front, especially with the stellar driver lineup of Leclerc and Hamilton. But this technical limitation could derail their entire season before it's even properly begun. What do you think about Ferrari's gearbox troubles? Can they find a workaround solution, or are they facing a season-long compromise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
Excuse us, thank you. Oh, sorry.
Lewis Hamilton has left the entire paddock speechless with his mindset heading into his Ferrari debut, confirming exactly what rival drivers feared most. The 7-time world champion feels absolutely zero outside pressure. Despite concerns about adapting to a new team at 40 years old, Hamilton has arrived in Melbourne with a dangerous combination of confidence, experience, and pure excitement that has sent shockwaves through the grid. The question now isn't whether Hamilton can handle the pressure of Ferrari, it's whether anyone can handle the pressure of racing against a liberated Lewis Hamilton. After 12 seasons with Mercedes that ended with 3 frustrating years in an underperforming car, many wondered if Hamilton's move to Ferrari would bring overwhelming pressure and expectations. But the Briton has flipped the script entirely, declaring that external pressure is non-existent for him ahead of this weekend's Australian Grand Prix. This mental fortitude is precisely what competitors hoped they wouldn't see from a rejuvenated Hamilton in the famous red car. I'm under no assumptions that it will be easy. It is not.
It's been a long winter, but it's also been very short. But I'm really grateful we had good testing last week. I can't believe the race is already next week, so I already start to make my venture to Australia on Friday. So that's when it really starts to be, it will start to sink in a little bit as the weekend kind of arrives, this weekend before. And no, but I feel excited. I feel we're as best prepared as we could be given the short space of time that than I've had. There's still things to learn, but I'm just excited to get going. I love racing.
Hamilton acknowledged when speaking to media in Melbourne, "But I don't feel the pressure. The outside pressure, it's non-existent for me. The pressure is from within and what I want to achieve." These aren't the words of a driver feeling the weight of Ferrari's championship drought. They're the words of a champion who knows exactly what he's capable of delivering. What's particularly alarming for rivals is Hamilton's clear sense of purpose and belonging at Ferrari. "I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. I don't feel I have to do anything," he stated with the confidence that comes from having nothing left to prove in the sport. "I've been in F1 a long time and done it time and time again. I know what it takes to do a good job, and that's what I want to deliver for myself and for my family, for this team that I really believe deserves success." Ferrari hasn't won a driver's championship since 2007 or a constructor's title since 2008, but they finished second in the constructor's standings last season and ended 2024 with one of the most competitive cars on the grid. With Hamilton now at the wheel alongside Charles Leclerc, the Scuderia has assembled a driver lineup that rivals will be losing sleep over. The transformation in Hamilton is palpable. After struggling with a difficult Mercedes for 3 seasons, he arrived in Melbourne visibly energized and motivated. "I'm itching to get going," he said, his enthusiasm unmistakable. "This is the most exciting period of my life, and so I'm really just enjoying it. I'm so excited to get in the car tomorrow." Perhaps most intimidating for competitors is Hamilton's emotional and psychological evolution since his F1 debut at this very track in 2007. The contrast between the 22-year-old rookie who drowned many times and today's self-assured champion couldn't be more stark. "Now, obviously, I'm very comfortable in my skin. I know who I am, I know where I'm going, I know what energy and time and effort I need to put in to get there," Hamilton reflected. This level of self-knowledge combined with his unparalleled experience makes Hamilton more dangerous than ever. He's not only technically brilliant, but mentally bulletproof. The exact combination that drivers like Verstappen and Norris desperately hoped they wouldn't have to contend with in a competitive Ferrari.
I can't believe the race is already next week, so I already start to make my venture to Australia on Friday, so that's when it really starts to be, it will start to sink in a little bit as the weekend kind of arrives. I feel we're as best prepared as we could be given the short space of time that I've had. There's still things to learn, but I'm just excited to get going. I love racing, and so all the other stuff is stuff I love less. Racing is what I love. Being at Melbourne, it's going to be very reminiscent of my first Grand Prix there.
The moment that shook Formula One to its core is finally upon us this weekend, as Lewis Hamilton prepares to make his competitive Ferrari debut at the Australian Grand Prix. After more than a year of anticipation following the bombshell announcement in February 2024, the 7-time world champion will finally sport the iconic red overalls in front of a packed Melbourne crowd. With testing showing mixed signals about Ferrari's true pace and Hamilton's adaptation to the SF-25, the big question remains: can the most successful driver of the modern era challenge for that record-breaking 8th title with the prancing horse? Or is McLaren's strong preseason form about to rain on Ferrari's parade from the very first race?
We are going to come into what happened at testing, but we're already hearing that he doesn't feel like it's going to take him half a season to get up to speed. He is right there, right now. He trusts the braking on this Ferrari, and we know when Hamilton trusts his brakes and can attack a corner as he wants, and perhaps he hasn't been able to do in that Mercedes for the last couple of years, he's at his most dangerous.
Yeah, I think, Tess, he's already sounds more confident. Everything we see of him, see him in red, walking in the paddock, he's loving it. But when we see testing with him, he was really on it. He had a few, not spins, but a few off curbs, let's say, through the test. And then by the last day, he was really, really on it, really confident in that car. I think he truly, truly believes that he's going to win in this car. And that's going to be very powerful, Lewis, when we get to race 1.
There is no question that Hamilton's move has generated unprecedented excitement around Formula One. The sport's most decorated active driver joining its most iconic team creates a marriage made in motorsport heaven, and the Melbourne race organizers couldn't be happier about hosting this historic debut. Ticket sales have reportedly skyrocketed, and the atmosphere at Albert Park is expected to be electric, with Ferrari fans welcoming their new star and Hamilton's loyal supporters following him to his new team. The journey to this point has been nothing short of spectacular. When Sky Sports first broke the news last February, the F1 world could hardly believe it. Hamilton, who had spent 12 seasons at Mercedes, was making the switch to Ferrari in a move that many thought would never happen.